All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka. With me today, I've got none other than Michele Gunn. Michele, glad to have you here today.
It's great to be here, Damon. I love your show, and I'm so excited to be able to be here and talk with you and with everyone who shows up and watches the replay.
Yes, we're going to talk today about helping executive moms find their inner talents. That's what we're gonna do, and hopefully not just executive moms, because you talk to a lot of people, and you really help them find those strengths. So, Michele, first of all, let's just get a little bit of background and kind of what led you into coaching.
It a life experience, first of all,
Uh huh.
and those who know me know that my previous job I worked for in the church for 14 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working with the pastor in my last church job with trying to develop people, bring them into bringing their talents into the church to get them involved and to tie that love in, of course, with money,
Yeah.
but to really bring people out to service. And as we were looking for different programs to see what we wanted to bring to the church, we stumbled across Clifton Strengths, which I hadn't really heard of, wasn't familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked to some other people, and the pastor and I both, with the research, thought this was the way to go. So I took the assessment, and for me, it was both a confirmation of who I am, an awakening of some things that I didn't want to own, and found out, yeah, that's you, and still working on owning some of those. Also realized why I could do something well for many years and not feel fulfilled. So as I went to we decided there was two ways to bring the program to the church. One was to pay
Mm-hmm.
Gallup to send people out to do it, which is very costly, but money well spent, in case Gallup's listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, or to certify somebody in house. And yeah, I wanted to do that. So I became a Gallup certified strengths coach, fell in love with it. My talents really align. Some of my top talents are developing people. And through my life, I have always done that. I've always taken people on, worked with them, trained them. I've been someone that people have come to talk to for advice. Not that I always have the best advice, but someone who will listen to people. It was very rewarding for me for that position. And that's when I decided coaching is really where my heart, my passion is, where I get my fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really how I became a coach.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool that it developed out of a need that in your job, and
Mhm.
you're able to go in and try to and hone your skills at that, and then turn it into a different career.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So this you said a couple things in here that I'll just get started.
Okay.
Because you said about something about yourself, and I think it just really struck home with me, and it's about owning who we are. You
Mhm.
said owning who you are. So I gotta believe that that's one of the first things that you got to be doing when you're coaching somebody and really helping them understand, some of their opportunities to build or to create a life that they enjoy more, or something like that, is really just figuring out who the heck they really are.
Absolutely, and that's definitely where I like to start because obviously I've learned a lot old later in my life than I did
Yeah,
earlier in my life, just to
yeah,
say I guess to say it that way. Honestly, if I love my kids, they turned out great, but I would so do things differently so that they would be a better them. Because when we are born, we're taught to do things, we go to school, we're taught to do
mhm,
things. If you don't fit the mold, you're told, right, yes, you got to do it this way. Lots of examples,
yeah,
right? One of the examples that we like to use is for right-handed people, write your name 5 times with your left hand.
Yeah.
How difficult is that, right? Then write it with your right hand. What you naturally do well, you can do better with practice. What you don't naturally do well, you might get better at it, but most likely it'll never be perfect. And I know people who are left-handed and went to school were made to be right-handed just to think the problems that they had. Same thing with our thinking on teaching math, right? You
Yeah.
got to do the doesn't matter if you get the same answer. We're taught to think a certain way, to behave a certain way. Now, obviously there's rules we need to follow, things to
Yeah.
keep safe. Um I always my son was a chatterbox. He just talked and talked and talked and talked. And that's something as me, I remember um second no, I think it was 1st grade. Yeah. Tape over the mouth, right?
Yeah.
Because I talk too much. Instead of teaching kids when it's appropriate to talk and to really teach them how to build on that talent and how to use it, we stifle it. We don't let
Yeah.
people be who they naturally are. We make them work harder. If you're not good in math, they make you do more math. That really doesn't make you good in math. It
Yeah.
makes most people hate math. So that's definitely one of the things I would change. And knowing yourself and knowing what to build on will only make life easier and more enjoyable. I'm not sure if I rambled too much and didn't answer your
No,
question.
no, no, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I think you hit one of the real things that we're taught at a very young age is, you got to work on your weaknesses. And as you get
Mm,
older, you just realize that, you know, I myself, I'm never going to be a creative person. I could try all I want. I'm never gonna. I'm just not. I can do a little, but hey,
mhm,
I'm not going to go there. There's a lot of other places that can build on strengths and really capitalize and use those through my life. But if we go back and you talk about the writing example, I'm a
mhm,
left-handed writer, and I'm often not only a left-handed writer, but I write kind of upside down with my left hand. I never could do, just horrible penmanship. So they kept
mhm,
going and going and going instead of just saying, you know what, print, move on.
mhm,
Because I just, it was one of the worst things ever that I wanted to do. And it made me so I did not want to write when I was in grade school. And now I like to write, but I'm not using a pen and I'm using the computer or something like that. Or even if I do, it's all printing. And I think that's just examples of those, like you said, like math. It's like, hey, if you don't like math, let's just get you through the basics and call it good. If you
right,
can add, subtract, multiply, divide a little bit, call it good. You don't have to understand calculus. But I think that you're right. A lot of people are put into a certain mold and we just don't fit it.
mhm.
Um, so the second thing you said, well, first of all, I want to do a couple things because we got Ronald on here. Great to see you tonight, Ronald. Thanks so much for being here. And
Thanks, Ron.
yeah, and Melissa's here too.
Melissa,
All right.
good
Good
to
to
see
see you.
you.
Yep. Oh, and Ronald said too, his wife was left-handed, forced to write right-handed
Mhm.
until her mom showed up.
Good for her mom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff because it does. I mean, sometimes it does take intervention.
Mhm.
And I know, it just happens. It just happens, I'll say. Because it does. It's people do. And I think now even in schools, um, because schools are made for masses, not for individuals.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that we run into is we have to remember that as parents, as people, that we are individuals and what works for somebody else may not work for us.
Exactly.
And that's good. But you said something else about doing well without being fulfilled. And I think that's an awesome. I mean, it's an awesome thing to discuss because there are a lot of people that are really good at things. I mean,
Mhm.
really good, but do not like doing them.
Yes.
So you said you were doing well at something, but you weren't fulfilled. So what were we talking about there?
Oh, I gotta tell? Yeah. I did I did many years of management. I did fast
Uh-huh.
food, retail, and church management.
Uh-huh.
And I could manage people well. I could manage a business well. I get tired after, a few years. It's not not fulfilling.
Mhm.
I could get the results that were desired, but it got to a point when you just didn't want to go back to work anymore
Yeah.
because you weren't getting anything out of it except a paycheck. And although we all need money,
Mhm.
most of the time, money is not going to fulfill you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And I think that's another trap that a lot of people get into is like they think because they need the money, they do need to stay in a role or they need
Mhm.
do something that doesn't fulfill them. Um, but there are other things they can do. And do you find that that's pretty common that people are doing something just because that's what they've always done, or that's what went to school for, or what do you typically see when you are talking with
Yes.
people about
That
this?
absolutely. A mixture of all of it. A lot of times, and especially with some people, they get caught in it could be a keeping up with the Joneses situation
Yep.
or a need to have things, and money becomes the ruler of their life. So, although they were planning on maybe going back to school, switching careers, they now get stuck having to pay for that new car or,
Yeah.
whatever the new fad things is, or their kids have to have the newest iPhone or whatever. And then it's no longer about fulfillment, but it's more about working for that paycheck. Also, um, a, a lot of times when we're growing up, our parents want to push us, shove us, guide us into the career that's making the money, right? I
Mhm.
know I was told, my parents won't be watching this, so I'm good, but you need to be an engineer because those are the people that are going to be making all the money. Okay, that's great. I was good in math. I was not great and I did not excel. They made me take extra math. That's why I had to stay after school every day for
Yeah.
one-on-ones. Could I learn to do it? Yes. Do it well? I'd say no. So a lot of times that happens. I've had other family members that went to certain college for a certain program to make their parents proud. Luckily, they woke up and said, "This is not the life I want," and changed careers. A lot of times people don't have the support to do that or the strength, the courage to do that.
Yes.
So, it's important that we do realize what does make us happy. And I think like we said earlier, to be able to find what really makes you happy, and I'm not talking about that instant I got a new toy happy
Yeah. Yeah.
or a bonus happy, but that truly internal joy from within. You really need to know yourself.
Yes. I'm writing some notes on that because there's because you just mentioned one of the things that I think that people get mixed up in their head and our minds or whatever in their lives is that there are different happies.
Mhm.
And that you just said like the happy of opening a present compared to the happiness that makes you feel like you're really fulfilled and happy with what you're doing, even if it's work.
Yeah, how about if you say, "I get up and go to work today," instead of, "Oh, I have to get up and go to work today," right?
Yeah. 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 And when you can get that, that's something I think, like you're saying, you help people figure out who they really are and then help to figure out how to make that more of their day. That's got to make a
Mhm.
huge difference in their long-term happiness.
Absolutely. And sometimes just just the biggest change is for them to get confirmation of who they are, and who they are is good and strong. Sometimes we don't embrace what's good about us because we're told, okay, I'll use me for an example. So, oh, I have a few family examples. Anyway, so when I was younger, okay, I had
Hmm.
been told by other kids I was nosy. In fact, my daughter still tells me that. Um, for me, one of my top strengths is the fact. that I like information.
Yeah.
So if something new pops up, I will learn what I can that I can use. Sometimes I will shelve it away. So when somebody asks me later, I have that information, but I always like to have information. So being younger and sometimes being older, it's construed as being nosy. And I just have that desire for information. Um, my youngest daughter, she knows I talk about her for this because people throw around the word empathy a lot.
Hmm.
You need to be empathetic. That's really something that is innate for people. You can learn the skills that mimic empathy, but to really be empathetic is really something that you're born with. And of course, when I became certified, I had my whole family take the assessment, of course. And my youngest daughter, in her top 5 was empathy. This girl does not care about anything. I could not figure out how she scored that. And, out of the mouth of babes comes wisdom. She says, "Mom, I know how people feel. I just don't care."
I know how they feel, but I mean, knowing it's cool. I mean, knowing it is because understanding how people are feeling
Mhm.
is so important in the communication.
Yeah. So even when we do learn more about ourselves, and like you used the term weaknesses earlier, I've
Yeah.
come to use the term challenges in the place of weaknesses because a weakness is just something that we haven't worked on.
Hmm.
And it's not necessarily something we're going to be the best at. So it may be a challenge for us. It may be something we need to overcome, or it may be something that we can delegate, or maybe something that we can just lean on somebody else for.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about working in teams is because all the people on the team don't have to be perfect or have the same skill set. If they do, your team it's going to suck,
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody's going to want to do the one thing. But having a more balanced team with a mix of talents on that team will be a much stronger, cohesive team. But having the team members understand how each other operates makes for the strongest team.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point because you have to have the diversity in the team to have a
Mhm.
more effective team, but they also need to know how to communicate and work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are human. So even though I'm educated in this, understand it and love it, sometimes I forget and I got to kick myself. Listen, that person needs time to think. Quit expecting them to answer you immediately. You know?
Yes. Yes. That is a good example of it for sure because, and it is, and that's one of the things I think as we begin to understand ourselves better and how we interact with the world around us. Um and I don't know if empathy is the right word, but considering the other person that you're talking to and their situation and what's going on
Mhm.
in their life and the other things around it help you to really, I think, communicate better, but communicate in a more timely fashion. You don't see that you don't. It's like, hey, I might have wanted that response a lot faster, but realistically, they're awfully busy, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of other things could take up their time that are more urgent than that. And it's interesting how as you can understand that better allows you to be a better communicator because if you start out something communication with someone, hey, I know you're busy, can you just wanted this real quick, blah blah, and get something brief like that, your communication seems to go a lot smoother.
Right. And to remember that communication takes two people, right? You have someone who's giving the communication and someone who's receiving it. It's not the person receiving it is not always getting the same message you're giving them. So you have to keep that in mind
Oh
also.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What they're receiving, what they're
Mhm.
receiving. Wow, yeah, I was just thinking about that. That's something, what they're receiving, because you're thinking about that part of it and how they're gonna feel about what you're saying, especially in a tough situation. So,
Right.
that's go
Yeah,
ahead,
a
sorry.
simple real life example in an office I worked in. Um, we had one person, and I don't, she's probably not watching, but I love her dearly. It's not meant bad. That she's one of those people that speaks her mind without thinking.
Mhm.
She just says whatever she says, she means it from the heart, good or bad. And we had another person in the office who was very, 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 very sensitive.
Hmm.
got a new haircut, came in and asked all of us what we thought about yeah, yeah, right, you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Um, I kinda tried to give an answer that was both pleasing to her and honest, and my dear friend said she didn't like it, and that just crushed the other lady, and then we had a big discussion in the office about communication. "Why'd you ask me if you didn't wanna hear the answer?" You know?
Yes. Yes. Yes, because it could be the truth. It's the honest truth that I didn't like it, but the recipient of that, that's not why they asked the question.
Right. So thinking about the receiver when we're giving a message often helps. Sometimes we need
Yeah.
to clarify, and also being the receiver to try to keep an open mind of what they're trying to communicate and not always take it personally, take the message as a message, not as a personal comment, which is hard when
Yeah.
we're human.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, Kenneth says he loves the term challenges rather than weaknesses. I do too. I think it's really good. And then um, Ronald said that empathy helps in customer problem resolution. That
Mhm.
certainly does. In
Yep.
fact, and I was reading this morning, and it talked about a situation where the person that called into a customer service line was very upset about the service, about something in the service, and they stopped and thought, this person and the other end of the phone did not cause this. It's
Right.
not their fault. They're just dealing with it. So I need to refrain how I'm doing. And they apologized and started the conversation over. And they said it came to a resolution so much easier because I was frustrated, very frustrated. But the way I approached it, I realized, stopped myself,
Mhm.
backed up and started over. And it turned out much better than it would have if I would have kept going down the same way without stopping and starting over.
Yeah, I think we can all do that like regularly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is amazing if you do, like you do in helping coaching people, and they really begin to understand where your strengths or challenges are. If you can see yourself, like, if you got a trigger or something, it's like, all right, every time my husband says this, I just go off the charts. And it could be, oftentimes it's just something silly, right? And I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking about me as a man, woman, doesn't matter. We have all these things. But if we understand that point of where we go, I go crazy when this happens. There's
Mhm.
things that we can do to help, maybe talk to our spouse and say, when you're going to do this, can you rephrase it a different way? Or we figure out how to receive it differently
Mhm.
to help do this. And I'm amazed the more I talk with people and understand it myself and do that. Do you think that that's a lot of the things that you see in coaching, is that people just need to, uh, that people work on trying to take things in differently? Or do you think that's not really um,
You
effective?
Yeah, usually when there's a big struggle, whether it's personally or professionally, we need to really talk about the situation, what happened, how you reacted, because now control the other person. We can only control how we react to the other person.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that can, like you said, when you reframed the way you were reacting, that changes the whole situation. If somebody comes at you and you're just like calm and sweet, that diffuses the situation. So
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And it's so key, I think, because when you talk about, um as you're doing, helping executive moms, bring some sanity to their lives, that, I mean, mothers and parents in general too, that are taking care of the kids, running them to all the sports, all the different activities and things they have to do now. What are some of the things that you see common across these people that you go, hey, you just need to take a breath here, because it's
Yeah, well, a lot of the women that I work with, they're they're caught up in their situation, right? They're not that they're not happy with the family or the way the life is necessarily, but a lot of times something's out of whack, either at home or professionally, and our life melds. It's not separate. So either they're working in a job like we talked about earlier that's not fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
When you work 8-10 hours all day and you're miserable, you come home, that's going to pour over into your home life. And if something is amiss at home, even though we're not supposed to bring home to work, it's not like we can leave part of ourselves at home.
Yep.
Something spills over there. So it's definitely s- it's along those lines. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like one particular thing, but usually something's out of whack to cause the rest of it to be out of whack.
I think you said it well. As I was sitting here listening to it, I was like, you're right. You can't, if you got trouble at home, it's going to affect you at work. If you got work trouble,
Mhm.
it's going to affect you at home. And that's why I think, as you're saying, it's not necessarily one or the other for people, but the cause affects everywhere,
Mhm. Yeah.
neither, no matter what it is. So what are some of the things that you, when you see someone like this and say they're having something at work, what are some of the basic steps that you try to help them through?
Well, uh, to begin with the coaching, I always prefer to people to take the Clifton Strengths assessment, and
Hmm.
we do a debriefing on that. I will coach people who don't want to do that, but I find this is really a good tool to use for them to have an understanding of themselves quicker, and for me to have a quicker understanding of them.
Yeah.
Um, that would I mean, what a coach job is to make the people find the answers that are within them. So there's a lot of questioning. There's, activities that they're given, whether it's journaling, meditating, um, trying to get them to figure out, right? The coach
Hmm.
doesn't tell you what your problem is, because I won't know.
Yeah.
I might have a clue when I'm listening to you, but that's something that you need to come to a conclusion on. And then we talk about possible solutions. How would you address that? What are the different routes? And we look at different avenues. There's not one right path to take for any situation, there's multiple. So you really have to work on and think about what would be best for you in that situation.
Yeah, because it is unique for each person, and
Hmm.
them finding the answers themselves by you as the coach asking questions and provoking the right thoughts in their mind to be able to figure it out. I bet that's pretty powerful as some of your coaching clients come down this road and they go figure some of this stuff out.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing to remember is there's always another person involved. So it's not just your coachee, it's either a spouse, a significant other, or kids. So that's more to the mix
Hmm.
that's in the equation. So it's not just one thing, but
Yeah.
it's very rewarding to help someone through
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So when you're in these situations and people are coming through this process and they're working with you, what are some of the results that you really see? I know people will be happier or whatever, but what are some of the things that they're telling you about when they go, okay, I've gone through this now and we've worked through some things, and that they're feeling that they, sense of words, sense of what are some of those things that they express?
Some of them, one of my early, I'll call it a success. It really wasn't my success. It was my client's success.
Yeah.
Was it was um of I'm trying to think how old she was. 48-year-old
Mm-hmm.
young lady.
Mm-hmm.
48-year-old young lady who thought she had no strengths.
Yeah.
There was nothing
Oh
about her
man.
that was
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
And going through the coaching process, she was able to really visualize and own her own strengths, that she has talents that are strengths. And not only that, that we could go back and look at her earlier years in life and see where those strengths helped her solve challenges. That to me, that was just remarkable to see somebody at that age to think they had no strengths to actually realize, wow, I do have strengths. Because this lady actually told me I don't have any strengths. And I'm like, look, you got your report, you have
Yeah.
so we had to, we went through the coaching process for her to realize that that was in actuality. Um,
Yeah.
another thing is women have said that life is smoother and happier, and they're now looking at other options for careers
Uh-huh.
that they were afraid to take before. So,
That's cool.
yeah, they're actually figuring out who they are and where they want to go instead of just being stuck in life.
Mhm. Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yes, and I've worked with men also, and I've worked with men who have overcome challenges, especially with a career path,
Yeah.
finding a new career path, something they thought that they wanted but weren't sure. And through coaching, they found out that is really what they wanted after all.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because I think as we look at ourselves, we often think that we're not as strong as we are, we're good
Hmm.
as good as we are, or we fall into, you talked about it before, comparison. I think that's,
Yes.
but I mean, it's got to be nice when you're able to help somebody realize that they are better and stronger and in a much better place than they really think they are,
Yes.
and to see it and to realize it around. Because I've been in those spins where you're just like, I'm just in a bad place, and then nothing's
Hmm.
good around me, and it's just, it's dark. And then if you really open your eyes and look around, there's a lot of bright light around you, and you just don't see it.
Right.
And I think that, for me personally, I think the coaching really brings that kind of stuff out. And do you see that in the clients as you work with them? It's like things that used to really drive them crazy, bother them a
Hmm.
lot. Now it's like, it's whatever it is.
Yeah. I think mostly for me, I see it a lot. A lot of the women, they hear people say positive things about them, but they don't believe it themselves. They don't buy into it. Like if somebody
Oh,
says, you're strong, you get things done, you have it together, they see themselves as a mess that can't do anything. So we have to work on that. A lot
yeah,
of that is mindset, but it goes a little bit deeper than mindset because first they have to really see from within through their own mind's eye that
yeah,
they do have that they
yeah.
can own it. It's not just what people say. I have one of the exercises that I do, and I've done posts about it. Uh, is that I asked, especially for clients who are having a really hard time loving themselves, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
um, name 3 things that's good about you, and it can't be something that you do for others. It has to be just something that's good about you. It can't be like, "Oh, I take care of my husband, I take care of my kids."
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's anybody. Something that's
Mm-hmm.
good about you. And I have them use those as affirmations,
Mm-hmm.
at least morning and at night, at least, and out
Yeah,
loud
yeah,
till they can own it.
yeah,
And sometimes they have a hard time coming up with 3 things, so we have to work on that.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think we're programmed sometimes to we've had parents or people around us that looked at the
Yes.
negative all the time, and then we fall into that category. It's like, yeah, I'm this, but I'm not that, and that not overpowers the I'm good at this, but I'm not at this, and that not at this really just negates what you're good at, or what's
Right.
good about you in some people's minds.
Mhm.
And that that like you said, that mindset and helping them through that has to be challenging and rewarding for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't lie, it's great for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love helping people recognize who they really are.
Yeah.
Um, like we were talking before the show, I think the world would be such a better place if we saw every human being for what they offer, for
Yeah.
their innate talents, not not necessarily for a skill they've learned or what they get paid to do
Yeah.
or their ethnicity or anything like that, but just the human that they are.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right there. Because we all have gifts. We all have
Mhm.
gifts.
We
We all
do.
have gifts and special qualities and things that were good and our challenges. And I think that's good. So you also um in your recent transition, you found out something the hard way about insurance, and that prompted you to start helping people with insurance as well.
Yes. Actually, so my coaching business is, a few years young,
Yeah.
and I started that on the side of my day job that I worked 14 years at. I
Mm-hmm.
had life insurance. I paid in extra money for more life insurance for me and for insurance on my husband. And when the pandemic hit, we got by for a while. And then this July, I lost my job. My
Mm-hmm.
husband's disabled. So well, now we're not a one income family. We're
Yeah.
we're a one income family with a little bit of disability. But I had not only did I not have health insurance, but we had no life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I paid in on that for 14 years.
Yeah.
So that money I spent is gone. Didn't go to savings, wasn't invested. Because I didn't know enough to ask, and my employer didn't know enough to provide the right benefits or to share that information. So, and looking for something else to do to help with the income from coaching, I came across insurance. And so I work with Globe Life Liberty National on
Mm-hmm.
Worksite. We offer a really, it's the best if you can get it through work. They have a group term that is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pre-tax, so you get benefits, but it's portable. So that's
Yeah.
one thing that I would advise anybody that has life insurance through their employer, see if it's portable. If it's
Mm-hmm.
portable, does it convert? If it converts, you need to know, does the face value decrease and do the premiums increase? Because if that's the case, you might want to look at something else.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a great point because oftentimes we get these benefits and it's like, oh yeah, here's some insurance and you pay a little extra and you go, oh, it's not that much. I'm just gonna do
Mhm.
that. But then when, like you said, when you come to the end, you don't realize that you spent the money on something that's not going to go with you.
Yeah, and we a lot of times we depend on our employers for all our benefits. I mean,
Hmm.
at least
Yeah.
in America we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. So what when you look at yourself and you said, okay, now I'm starting this new type of career. What are some of the things you learned about yourself? You talked about strengths. What are some of the things you learned about yourself?
I probably learned more about my challenges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of them, like I talked about when the teacher in first grade put the tape on my mouth because I
Yeah.
was a chatterbox. When I got my strengths report back, I had in my top 10, my 10th strength was woo, winning others over. Number 11, which means that relator. A relator is someone who thrives on the personal relationships. And a woo is someone that you see at a party that goes from person to person to person. I don't relate with that. I see myself as more of the relator than the woo. Now, I'm guessing that my woo was stifled when they put the tape over my mouth because I was then
Yeah.
taught not to talk to people and it became very difficult to talk to people. Well, now I need to work on my woo because I need to talk to people.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
learning that it is in there, but I need to bring it out a little bit more. I'm
Hmm.
definitely driven by helping people, which in this industry, you definitely get the opportunity to help people. Um, we've of course we've seen both sad stories where people didn't take the coverage and
Yeah.
something bad happens, but to see people who take the coverage and get the help they need, the financial help they need, is rewarding to know that they're covered.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. I had a parent die this last year, and it's the insurance was a big part of it for my mom. It was a big part of it for her.
Mhm.
And you don't realize it until you need it.
Right.
And it's one of those things that it's like you said, you just don't realize until you need it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, you look around at all the people who have to do GoFundMes, or they're
mhm.
doing benefits, um, and sometimes, well, if you get the insurance while you're younger, it's really quite affordable. Now, if you
Yes.
wait till you're my age, now I have to go get insurance, it's a
Yes.
lot of money.
Yeah. A lot different. It's a lot
Yeah.
different. Yeah. But I think it's a really interesting combination though, because um, because of your coaching background, some of the things that actually help to coach yourself.
Yeah.
At
Oh,
least you know them, but you may like doing something for yourself. It's hard to implement, maybe, but
a coach needs a coach too, that's a fact.
yeah,
And yeah, when you're talking about people having a bad day, so
yeah,
doing on the work site end, um, we do cold walk-ins. It's really
yeah,
it's horrible.
yeah, yeah.
I one of my one day I set up for a local business that the church has done business with when
Hmm.
I worked there. They didn't know who I was,
Yeah,
but I been in that business and I knew it was going to be a great experience. Now I'm hesitant to go talk to people I don't know. Remember that.
hmm, hmm.
So I said, I'm going to do this one of the first ones in the morning because it's going to be a great experience. So I go in there and I ask for the owner. A lady comes up and asks, who I am. So I tell her who I am, who I'm with, why I'm there. She goes back, talks to the owner. He says, come back and talk to me. So, like, cool. I go back and talk to him, and first thing he does is starts yelling at me. If you're here to sell me something, get out. And he literally chased me out of the building. Because his office was in the back up the stairs.
Oh
Chased
wow.
me down the stairs, out the door, and I was gonna quit. I wanted to cry. I almost cried. I didn't.
Yeah,
And then I coached myself. Okay. He invited me back knowing what I was about. Why would he do that? He's got to be having a bad day. He needed to yell at somebody, and there I was.
yeah,
And so I had to just change my mindset and realize I was there for him to yell at
yeah,
and then move on.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. It is and it's the one thing I realized talking with you, and as you talk with people that are on their own learning, whatever you call it, learning about mindset and about
Mhm.
themselves and about it, is that um, our parents didn't understand, and weren't taught in school this kind of stuff. We weren't just simply weren't taught a lot of things that we know now that I don't think is still being taught, that would help us an awful lot in life and help our children a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was hogwash. I mean, I'll admit it.
Yeah,
There's a lot of things that I didn't understand that I understand now since I've gotten into coaching.
yeah,
It's just, yeah, like I said, I would raise my kids differently. Even though I think they turned out great, they could have been better
yeah,
if they were more them. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. It's a good way to say it, because I think um, because the strengths and challenges thing, and then dealing with people and understand, just like you said, the situation you talked about, to be able to not take it internally. And I know for younger people it's a lot harder, but still to learn it, just learn it at a young age.
Mhm.
um, we could have developed these skills over many years and been much better at it now.
Yes. And now that maybe we wouldn't be so mean to other people.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, it's just one of those things that I think that as you're coaching, I mean, your life experience has to help an awful lot when because you're a mother of three, a grandmother. I mean, you've really, when you're talking with these executive moms, you've been there.
Yeah, yeah, and actually too, through my coaching experience, because like I said, I had my whole immediate family take the assessment. That includes my husband,
Yeah.
and boy, did I learn a lot about why we fight. I mean,
Oh, I bet.
yeah, because uh, his number one this okay, there's 34 talent themes. His number one strength is my number 34. No lie. And he is always in his number one. And it, after I was learning how he thinks and how I think, and we'd get into an argument, and I'd be like, wait a minute. Okay, this is where he's coming from. This is where I'm coming from. Then we can have a conversation. I got him to understand how I thought, and I was able to understand how he thought,
Wow.
which diffuses the situation. This is really it's a great couples tool also.
No
But
kidding. Yeah.
I'm for strengths for everything. But um yeah, it really, when you really understand the other person, it's so much easier to communicate and to work together, personally or professionally.
Yeah.
It just makes it so much better for everyone.
Yeah. Yep. And that's interesting how you said that with you and your husband, because I'm a fixer, right? And every time my wife would want to talk to me about something, I always try to fix it. And
Yeah.
then finally, after I was, beaten the head a million times, you realize that you should listen and not say a lot sometimes. It's a lot easier when you know like you said, when what the other person is really trying to say, not what's coming out of their mouth.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because we often don't say what we mean.
Hmm. Yeah. That's something. That's something. Well, Michelle, it's been great talking to you today. I enjoy your energy. I enjoy the practicality of what I mean, I just think that your coaching clients have to be very happy and thankful to have you helping them, because of the fact that, you come from a deep understanding and some real life experience behind it, and can show them, ways that they can build on their strengths and make things run better or work better for themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Damon. I always enjoy talking with you. Y-
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's great. And I know we had a lot of comments here. We had Ronald, Ronald is here, and they had Shane, uh, Shane Rob, excuse me. I can't see. I was looking through a camera here, but, saw that. Thanks so much for commenting today. Thanks so much, Michelle, for being here. And if people want to get a hold of you, Michelle, where's the best place to get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me here on LinkedIn or on Facebook. My profiles are public. I'm
Yeah.
open. Also have Facebook and LinkedIn page for Cultivate and Thrive, my coaching
Yeah.
on Instagram. Probably not as nice as most people's, but it's there.
Yeah.
And if you're interested at all about insurance or joining the insurance industry, just hit me up,
There you go. There
or
you go.
coaching. Yeah, I'm always looking for new clients too.
Yeah. Yeah. So Cultivate and Thrive, and then on LinkedIn and Facebook, Michele Gunn. So Michelle, thanks so much for being here today. Thanks everyone for listening in and your comments. We'll be back again shortly with another interesting guest talking about life and business. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.